just the frames. Got keys to kingdom, unlocking chains. Sober the podcast, open up your brains. Sober the podcast, let's get it, man.
Welcome back to Season 4 of Sober the Podcast with your host, Bradley Saxon, Christopher Carlton,
Yo, what up?
and Steven Sanders.
Hey.
Coming from the lab live, baby.
Yeah, baby.
As we continue into the season of talking about 12 steps. And I think we got something today that's going to be a little twist in what we're doing. But really, ultimately, we're just trying to be led by the Spirit.
Yeah.
And sometimes that goes away from our plans. But I think this is going to be something that's really cool to, add value to everybody, not just addicts and alcoholics. But before we get started, we got our three-pointer. And I've got someone here in mind that we'll call that's one of our Trailblazer subscribers. Again, if you didn't know, we have a app through Patreon. It's an extension of this, and you can support monthly by subscribing as a Trailblazer subscriber, and you get hours and hours of exclusive content. Also, you get all this stuff a week early before everybody else does. So it's a pretty cool gig, but you also get to help us, sow into us to help us continue to carry this message.
Yep. Yeah.
And you guys are what makes that possible. So we really thank you. And matter of fact, the person's trying to call me. So let's see if we can't go ahead and call her and see if she's been watching. Because if she hadn't, she's not going to be able to. I don't even know what question I'm going to ask her. Do y'all? Here, we'll get it started here. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll come through here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hey, Bradley.
Hey, Miss Bobby, how you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm doing good.
That's fantastic. Well, first of all, we want to thank you for subscribing to our Patreon app and being one of our Trailblazer subscribers.
Oh, yeah, this is great.
Yeah. So what we do at the beginning of a lot of our shows, if you don't know, is we have a tradition called the three-pointer. And this season, we're calling and asking questions. And if you get the question right, you hear something like this. No, you don't, actually. But ultimately, if you get it right, CJ will shoot 3 times, and you can win some merchandise.
Okay.
All right? And so are you ready? Because I got a question for you.
Okay.
You want a hard question or an easy question?
You better give me an easy one.
Give you an easy one. Okay. Who was the second who is the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous? Bill Wilson and who?
Dr. Bob.
Hey.
Dr. Bob. Let's go. My
Good
buttons
job,
ain't
Bobby.
working, but Bobby, you got it right. And
Good job.
CJ's gonna shoot a shot.
Here we
and
go.
if he can make 1 of 3, he just got to make 1. Then you're a winner. Okay, Bobby?
Okay.
All right, he's about to
You
shoot.
better get it, CJ.
All
Wish
right.
me luck, Bobby.
He missed the first one, Bobby.
So close.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
no.
But he made the second one, Bobby. You are a winner.
Let's go, Bobby.
How about that, Bobby?
Yeah.
So somebody from the team will be with you this week, and we'll mail you out something, probably our brand new hoodie. I don't think you have it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Bobby. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Bobby.
Okay, y'all too.
How about that? CJ might be 2-0 right now because I think the last guy,
We figured it out.
was it
baby.
Bruce?
No, that was Blake Sowell.
Blake Sal. He didn't win.
He's a little resentful about that, too.
He's still
Yeah,
salty about
yeah.
that. But man, this is always a fun time. It gives people time, gets people involved in what we're doing, and ultimately allows us to have a little fun. But let's push into this episode. And I think the idea was, while we read many things in the big book that are there for a reason that we agree with,
Yeah.
like having tolerance of other people's viewpoints.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? Knowing that we're in a program to where we are being put amongst people that don't really believe like us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You can read it in several different places.
Yep.
Like, I don't read these things as saying that these people are anti-Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? I start to understand rather than to be understood and realize that I think their motive of some of the things that they put in place was to get, if people are drunk, they can't come to Jesus.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right? If people are high, you're never going to be able to win them to Jesus, right?
Right.
And so I think the whole idea of step 1 and 2 is to add the understanding of the problem that brings them to a place of acknowledging their need for God.
Yeah.
And it's just this idea of a lot of times when a man can understand the problem and that can come and that can be accepted at a deep level in their life, it starts to help them to, open their mind to the idea of God, right?
Start to search for it.
Because not everybody in life was raised or is like us.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? Like, I never had a problem with the God idea.
Yep.
As far as like accepting it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I had a problem with the God idea because I thought I knew more than I did, and I didn't know how to utilize that relationship to overcome problems in my life, right?
Yeah.
I definitely had a problem with the God. But there's people that don't want to talk about God, that, that are stuck in between a rock and a hard place when it comes to alcoholism and accepting that they need God's help to overcome it, right?
Right.
But I think the thing that we feel in this season of our life that is a part of what we do is sharing the gospel.
Yes.
Yes.
Telling people that we believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He's the only name under heaven that has been given that man shall be saved. And so while we understand people's journey of going through whatever that looks like to evolve their conception, we still don't let it hold back from being able to share where we are today concerning that conception of God.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Can I read something straight out of the
please
big book?
do.
It says on page 77, when it will serve any good purpose, we are willing to announce our own convictions with tact and common sense.
Yeah.
And so I just think, man, that there is a spot in this journey in what we do and the people God has called us to help to preach the gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meaning the thing that connects a man to God, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And then utilizing the steps in a way more for sanctification and the renewing of the mind.
Yes.
Right? For people to learn how to make their faith relative to the way that they
Their
talk,
life, man.
walk,
Yes.
how they overcome problems,
Yes.
or whatever. And it's not that I don't think that the third step really is preaching the gospel. I just think that we tend to want to share things now that we feel are important.
Yeah.
Wording that we want to add, that we make sure that the people that we lead, because of our convictions, understand what we believe being saved is concerning eternity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, man, like being sober in the earth, living in freedom from the bondage of self and the earth is one of the great objectives of what we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's not a celebration at a funeral for a man that dies drunk that isn't connected to the one that gives them eternity.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And now let's be honest, there was a time I didn't talk like this.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
There was a time where I started a journey at a very minute stage. My understanding of God was very minute. And at that juncture was enough for me to begin the journey I'm on today.
That's right. Yep.
But where I'm at today at almost 20 years of sobriety, there's just some convictions that I have that I feel that God has called me to talk about.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's just some times in my life to where I should have been knocked over.
Yep.
I should have been drunk.
Yep.
I should have never recovered from some of the things I did.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, a lot of people don't know this, but in those times, me and God had some conversations about what my future would look like concerning the grace that he had put on my life. And I'm going to be honest with you. One of the things that came out of it is it's now time for you to start telling them what people didn't tell you.
That's it.
Right.
Man.
That's good, man. Yeah.
And so a lot of what I do today is just based on my own personal relationship over time as my conception has changed and as I've grown in my understanding and effectiveness, which is what the big book encourages me to do.
It does. Yeah.
I'm just at a place now where my ministry just looks different.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And I have to follow my convictions, right?
That's right, man.
And
Yeah.
so one of those convictions is that I truly believe that a big part of my journey that potentially was missing, or I was at a very elementary understanding of, was Jesus.
Yeah.
Me too.
And to be honest with you, man, I was really gung-ho about God, even in early recovery.
Yeah.
And the God in my mind was Jesus because of the way that I was raised. But because of certain environments I was put in, I sort of was shaped to sort of steer away from that kind of language.
Yeah.
Just because of the conflict that it created.
Yeah.
Because I mean, dude, there's been, and this is my experience being in AA, being 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, being on fire for recovery, being in meetings and not chairing them according to Jesus, but using the word God and actually talking about topics in AA concerning God in the book. And dude, there would be people that would get up and leave.
Yeah.
People that would get mad at me because I'm having a topic about God.
Yeah.
In an AA meeting,
Yeah.
right? And so I think a lot of times I didn't want to think that really shaped me, but it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wanted to shape me towards wanted to be accepted and liked and watching what I said so that I didn't lose no friends.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But there is something to be said that now the older I get, the less that
Yeah.
those things are priority in my life.
Yeah.
And so as I matured and developed emotionally, I've realized that this season looks different because of what God used those seasons to do in me, to create a boldness
Yeah.
to be able to do what he's called me to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, when we started the Bridge Center, being an AA guy for multiple years, but then being called into ministry. Okay. Do you know the story?
I've heard parts of it. Yeah. I believe I do.
Because it was the hardest transition in my 20 years is going from AA all the time to God wanting to do a new thing.
Yeah.
And then people not liking the new thing,
Right.
but yet the book telling me I can't survive certain low spots and trials ahead if I fail to enlarge my spiritual condition.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I didn't understand what God was doing, but there was a time where God wanted me to stay in step with him that brought me out of step with people.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm just telling you, dude,
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would probably still be in a sea of vanilla, if not drunk, had I not in that season continued to enlarge my spiritual condition that looked different
Yep.
than the first 10 years. And the people that walked with me the first 10 years couldn't fellowship with me after that because we could not relate to one another because we were no longer in the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that came out in a lot of hurt for me. Like a lot of hurt and a lot of downtime to be mad at God
Yeah.
because he wanted to do a new thing, but I'm wanting it to look like the old thing because
Yeah.
it's more comfortable.
Yeah.
Thus began the journey of what we got here called the Bridge Center,
Yeah.
which is when I first started the wrestle between what message are we going to carry,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, our treatment plan is the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Absolutely.
But we believe that Jesus is the higher power.
Yes.
That's right.
And so we implement that and we use the Bible to transmit that message even more clearer. And to be honest, it was a great wrestle, but it's been a great reward over 5 years as we've just sort of got into our vein and did what God would have us do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of fruit come from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think we would be doing our listeners and who we are a disservice if, as we talk about these steps, according to the Big Book, that we implemented our religion.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't like the word religion, but true religion
Yeah.
is what we do
Yeah.
when it comes to the way that we serve people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the way that we care for the orphans,
Yeah.
and the way that we serve people. It is true religion. And, I just truly believe that only Jesus can make dead things alive.
Yeah.
It's good.
And so it's funny because right before we started this, as we were going to talk about too, according to the Big Book, I told the guys, I said, why don't we just do this?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they were like, yeah, this is great, because, I mean, nobody can get in your mind. You know what I mean? Like if you got into my mind for a day, you'd run for cover. But just understanding, man. Like I haven't really mentored Stephen like I have CJ walking personally.
Right.
But my mentorship towards CJ for the first 9 months was laying the foundation of Jesus.
Yeah.
We didn't start reading the big book together until he was 6 to 9 months sober.
Yeah.
Which was something completely different that I ever did because I'd always used the big book as a way to first mentor people. But that was because I was always around treatment.
Yeah.
But when I started finding that I could mentor men that didn't go through treatment, that were willing to do what men were willing to do in treatment,
Right.
I started realizing, man, that there was a way to create a relationship and to do life with people and to, try to put what was in me in him,
Right.
And so I think the first thing that he ever laid was this foundation, Jesus. The thing that was the disconnect was, now how does this affect my life?
Yeah.
How does this Jesus guy influence my life, right?
For sure.
Which is where the steps really helped elevate his experience, you know?
That's right.
But that's what we do, man. We preach the gospel. I mean, every week we preach the gospel to these men and give them an opportunity to place their faith in Jesus, man. It, for some reason, by its nature, is very controversial, but it's okay, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I saw a scripture here. Step one, we understand is powerlessness, right?
Yeah.
We understand that according to the mental obsession allergy. But ultimately, the powerlessness comes from our spiritual malady, which is our separation from God.
Yep.
Right.
That's the mental obsession and the allergy of the body are not the problem, not the root of the problem.
Yeah.
It's the problem that we've created through drinking that's become an illness that we can't cure.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But the way that we have found to overcome alcoholism is to treat the spiritual problem.
Yep.
Right.
Which you start to understand in step 3 as self-will.
Yes.
Which is this self-life, like I can do it myself. I play God. I can take, and so that's the root of the trouble.
Yep.
Which is really what the message of the gospel targets.
Yep.
Which is my separation from God, right?
Yes.
And here in Romans chapter 5, let me put my glasses on. Y'all see the glasses? I can't read it without it. Sorry. This is terrible, ain't it? It says in Romans chapter 5, which I'm not there for some reason. I was reading this right before I got here. Romans chapter 5, look at this wording in verse 6. You see, at just the right time when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about the gospel, there is a problem when you read Romans 3:23, for all have sinned
Yep.
Falling short.
and fell short of the glory of God.
Yep.
Now, what is the problem? Sin.
Yeah.
Sin like action.
Yeah.
Right.
Like like a verb.
Yeah.
Right.
And there
Yes.
has to be something that deals with the penalty of sin
right.
that has got me standing in opposition of my
Yeah.
Creator,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we find is the death of Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
The death of Jesus takes care of the penalty of my sin and pays the debt I can't pay.
That's right.
Right.
Yep.
Right? That's a part of the gospel, that his death did something for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have to realize that I have to place my faith in his death, because when I identify with his death, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am able to get put into a place to be right with God and the penalty of sin removed and the righteousness of God imputed to me
Yeah.
based on faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a part of the message. For we all have sinned.
Yes.
For a man who is dead in sin,
Yeah.
the problem is God ain't on the inside, he's on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem
Yeah.
of the man dead in sin.
Yes.
God is not on the inside of you.
Yeah. Right.
Why? Because you're a sinner.
Yeah.
And he can't move into a contaminated temple.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
It's funny how God don't even start with the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why y'all preach about the allergy of the body, the mental obsession? Even God don't deal with the inside. He deals with the outside first so he can move on the inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first thing God deals with is your sins.
Yeah.
Transgressions.
Yeah, your
Yes.
transgressions, your the things that has come from the root of the
Yes.
trouble.
Right.
Yes.
He deals with those to make you right with him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so he can move in to start the good work.
Yes.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
But ultimately, we feel it necessary for a man to understand that if you've never placed your faith in his death and identified with it, you've never been saved.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there's still a debt that you can't pay.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's still a debt that you have with God that you can't pay. And the
Yeah.
only way to make that debt right is by placing your faith in the thing that he gave to fulfill it.
Yeah. And let me just say this. God, dude, there's so much here. Not drinking and using doesn't pay that debt.
Right.
No, I don't.
Finding a way to get sober apart from that payment being made. You said it earlier. You said,
Oh, I like that.
If you die drunk, all right, well, were you saved? Okay, that's one thing. All right, man, we mess up, we make mistakes, things happen, but were you saved? If you made a mistake, you died drunk, okay, were you saved? Only you know that. Would it be worse if that happened, or would it be worse if you died sober and you weren't saved?
Right.
Well, I think that ultimately the thing that gets me to heaven ain't dying sober, it's being made righteous.
That's right.
That's the
which
point.
don't come from
That's
works.
the point.
It
Yes.
comes from surrender.
Comes from Jesus.
Yeah, it comes
Yes.
from Jesus. Like
Yes.
when I stand before God, he's not going to say, depart from me for you didn't do enough.
Yeah.
It's depart from me for you never knew, for I never knew
I
you.
didn't know you.
Which
Yeah.
means I was never born of him.
Yeah.
Never moved in.
I was
Yeah.
never born into his family.
Yes.
I never became a child of God.
Right.
And all that takes place is when I surrender and place my faith in this message.
Yes.
Yep.
Like it seems foolish.
Yeah.
Well, the Bible even says that there are people who are perishing that this message is foolishness to. Why? Because either you haven't got to the place where you have a heart to receive the truth because you still know what's best for your life,
Yeah.
right? That's usually the people this message is foolish to.
Yes.
But for us, man, it's the power of God.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm just thankful that there come a day in my life to where such foolish message became the power of God unto salvation, or
Yes.
I would still be probably just aimlessly wandering through life
Yes.
thinking that I was God.
Yeah.
You can even do that in sobriety.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can worship the methodology of the 12 steps, get sober,
I've done it,
and never have turned your will and life over to the care of God.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
that blocks you more from God than anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that as we build this archway through which we are trying to pass a free man,
Yeah.
I think it's very important to us that we believe that there's only one foundation that things can be built on that makes it unshakable.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think that's what this episode is about, is understanding, man, like we need to, I mean, Jesus is the only thing given in history that deals with sin.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Like I'm just saying, man, like my acknowledgement of what Jesus did for me on the cross in my walk now is very important
Yes.
to my journey.
Yeah.
And I felt that it's so important that I've implemented it in even early on in newcomers, because I felt like things could have been different for me if somebody would have told me about it
Yeah.
the first 5 years.
Yes.
Well, what if I just let you just figure out, on your own, everything there is to know about relationships, and I never gave you the wisdom of the things that I suffered with? It's exactly the same thing. I mean, I didn't want to be a Jesus guy at all, and I remember my sponsor telling me, "You just need to seek God." He told me, the only thing I care less about that you don't want to believe in is what you think you believe in. I really don't care. Like,
Yeah.
just the joy is in the seeking. Go through the process, and we know that you'll find
Absolutely.
where God. I wanted to be a Hindu or a Buddhist. Like I wanted to be literally anything other than
But
Jesus. You
Yeah.
know, and how I got there, we could talk for hours about that. But it was through people getting in my life, that could help me to see the similarities to what I was already talking about. But I want to read this real quick. Simple, but not easy. A price had to be paid.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I thought the price, like CJ just said, was that I have to stop drinking and using drugs. I don't even know I can't do that.
Yeah.
First of all. And I think the price is, you know what? We had a good run, had some good times, went all over the country, did everything.
Yeah.
But now I just had to be one of, a normal person. And nobody, I guess I thought I was going to actually be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
And what's
sure.
one of the things I always try to tell the guys I work with, like, we are not trying to get you to be a normal person. Like, you've
Yeah.
never been able to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like,
not at all.
How terrible of a thing. But most people come thinking that's what they're trying to pull off.
That's what I thought.
And that's what I think destruction of self-centeredness means. But I think it's exactly what you just said. It means I can no longer be the center. Myself can no longer be the center, which means God has to become the center of
Yes.
my life.
Yeah.
That's the price that has to be paid. That
Yeah.
means my opinions of it, my prejudices of it,
Yeah.
all those things have to be cast aside. I mean, in the big book asks us, we beg you to lay aside of all the prejudice, even concerning organized religion.
Yes.
Be quick to see where people are right. But
Yeah.
I know you said it this morning. That
Make
it's-
use of what they offer.
yeah,
Yes.
but it's only pain, like you
Yes.
said. It's only pain.
It is. It's
95% of the time is only pain.
Yeah, for
Sometimes
sure.
it could be the wisdom, and how ignorant of me to say let him have his own journey and not give him the same things
Yeah.
that I've already gotten to. The whole point is to try to let him avoid some of the landmines that I already had to
yeah.
cross.
I mean, dude. I mean, what kind of leaders? I mean, often you don't. I mean, you don't want your proteges or your mentees or whatever you want to call them, your sorors, what they used to call them,
Pigeons.
sponsorees.
Yeah, sponsees.
To look exactly like your path.
Right.
I mean, I think the whole idea of putting my pain on display is that they can miss some things that
Yes.
made me rebuild for 3
Yes.
years
Yeah.
that I shouldn't have been rebuilding because I couldn't
Yes.
be told nothing.
Yeah.
You really want to see them go right past you
Oh,
and give them the leg.
100,000
man,
million miles,
Yeah.
bro.
There's nothing
Yeah.
better than that. God.
So I think that it's important that we understand that powerless in step 1 concerning alcohol, and step 3 is concerning our spiritual condition.
Yeah.
It just is, man.
Yeah.
Like you talk about the body and the mind in step 1. Bill Wilson don't mention the problem of the spirit until chapter 3.
Right.
Yep.
Which is where a man's going to be willing to make a decision. This is what we're talking about, making a decision to follow Jesus. Well, in making a decision, you deal with the sins that
Yes.
are unforgiven.
Yes.
Things that build guilt and shame in your consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way to overcome shame
No.
and guilt apart from Jesus.
Say that again, man.
Because I'm telling you, guilt is the consequence of sin,
Yes.
Yep.
and shame is the consequence of being a sinner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a man that takes the sinner out
Yeah.
and renews him to a brand new person,
Yeah.
then he has nothing to combat the wrong decisions.
Yeah.
Well, he has nothing to combat the guilt that comes from the wrong decisions
Yeah.
if he ain't been made righteous.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because now I'm just left to being a hamster in a treadmill
Yeah.
every day just trying to get better.
Yeah.
There's no hope in that.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And so the hope is in Jesus was perfect. He died a gruesome death for me. What? So I could be made the righteousness of
Yeah.
God. So as the shame and guilt have controlled my life, I get forgiven for it, but then I get to learn how to live free from it
Yeah.
according to what he's done for me.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
Yielding.
Is the means of becoming.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yielding to the God in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And letting him live his life through me.
Yeah.
Paul says it's not I, but him that
That's
lives.
it,
And
man.
so there's something refreshing about understanding in step 3 what dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like something has to die in step 3.
Yes.
To be reborn,
Yeah.
Yep.
something had to die. Well, we're just expounding upon this word reborn
Yeah.
that did not come from the big book. It
Yeah.
came from Christians who
Yeah.
wrote the big
That's
book
right.
Yeah.
that used the book of James
Yes.
prior to ever having this book, that
Yeah.
used the book from William James,
Yeah.
Varieties of Religious Experiences,
Yep.
that I would imagine that if this is a group called the Oxford Group that preached Jesus, that men came from, that eventually started this deal, that I would imagine their higher power was Jesus,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, it was.
You know,
No
and
doubt.
so I think that they're using these words and they're trying, as they revise it, to maybe have love and tolerance for other people's religious backgrounds.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I would imagine the goal is for them to know Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so I just think that you see this word reborn.
Yeah.
Well, you got to understand, bro. Being reborn is a very, very. I mean, dude, you're putting your faith in something. I mean, like, faith is a risky business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you think about being reborn,
Yep.
you're placing your faith in something that you say has the power
Yeah.
Right.
to forgive you of sins, to kill this factory that's
Yeah.
producing sins, and to bring it back to life, to make it brand new.
Right.
Well, I mean,
That's a bold statement.
but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, you say you're reborn in step 3, and as I, you know, I've got to have somewhat of a right. No matter how minute my spiritual conception is, I got to have a right idea, because, man, I could get way off on this conception
Yeah.
moving through these
Golly,
steps.
yeah.
And there's no way I can consider some of the things I choose as my higher power
Yeah.
that has the power to make me from dead to alive.
to alive.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. There probably are many other paths to do this methodology too, you know, that would be semi-effective. And I know that it was for me in my
For
experience,
sure.
but
Well, I mean, look, dude, here's the truth, though, man. Like, when you have an experience with Jesus, you get born again, and you preach this, it's offensive.
Yep.
But how
Yeah.
can you not preach it when you got the experience of watching Jesus take a dead thing and make it alive?
Yeah. That's
Can't
right.
not.
Yeah.
Can't not preach it, man.
You can't. Well, I mean, you understand that this is foolishness
Yeah.
to people who are perishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, dude, that we would be doing our listeners a disservice if we didn't place or if we didn't speak about where our hope comes from.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is from Jesus.
That's
And-
right.
But here's another part of this, man. Like a future context part of what we're talking about. I can make a mistake now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I can mess up now, and it's already paid for.
That's right.
Like that's hope for me. That like I'm not dead in that mistake.
That's right.
I'm not dead in that mess up. I'm not dead in that transgression. I'm not dead in what I do tomorrow. I'm not dead in that. I'm already been made alive. And so there's hope that I can try, mess up, learn from it, keep it pushing. Right? There's hope for me in that.
Yeah.
Like he ain't done with me yet. He's not done with us yet. He's not done with what we're trying to do. And I can mess up. I can experience the guilt of the action or the behavior based on the fact that now inside of me, I know that's not who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not who I am. There's something inside of me saying, hey, see, that's not who you are anymore.
That's right.
Right? And so, and it pulls the best out of me, not the worst out of me.
That's right. Yeah.
And it starts to refine us like gold, but the refining always comes from the fire. The troubles, life, situations, struggles in relationships, marriages, like trying to be a father to kids and wanting to kick them upside the head. And I know that all of those things in Jesus are going to work out for my good.
Yeah. That's
and
right.
for his glory.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But I think, man, that the thing that I have loved about the way that God has got me to where I'm at, how he took me to a rehab and introduced me to AA, what I love about that is that it seems to be a common mistake amongst Christians that they get drunk off theology.
Yeah.
Like there is this way of knowing this stuff
Yep.
and it not changing your life.
Yep.
And so I just loved the fact that I incorporated a program that taught me how to not talk about it, but to be about it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how I could know it, but yet it not influence my life. And how that was the biggest turning point for me when I realized that this thing ain't a theory, you have to live it.
Yeah.
And so the steps implemented action with my
Yeah.
faith that allowed my conception of God to influence me to the point where I was different.
Yeah.
And so that's why we continue to use this program is because, I mean, I probably shouldn't say some of the things that I think, but, you know, I think it does a great job of preaching the kingdom of heaven in a way that teaches a man how to evolve,
Yeah.
how to change,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, dude,
Yeah.
like, for many years, I didn't change.
Yeah.
Like me being drugged to church, maybe it planted some seeds, but like, dude, I didn't change.
No, me either.
I'm just telling you. I'm going to church, but I'm lying. I'm objectifying women. I'm 13 in church youth group. I'm the guy they
Yeah.
love because I'm one guy there, but I'm sleeping with somebody outside. I'm just telling you,
Oh,
dude.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I was a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
And I had no mentorship on how is my religion going to change the way I talk. Not just the way I talk, walk, but my whole entire heart, my
Yes.
motive.
Yes.
I mean, dude, it's if I'm in Christ, I got a new heart, which means I got new passions, appetites, and desires. How do I feed that? I had no clue, bro.
Yeah.
And so I really think God is humorous in the sense of when he wanted to change my life, he took me to AA.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bro, you can't say this stuff around people. Like he didn't take me to a little back road church.
Right.
Like I feel like God loved me enough to take me to where I would hear something that he preached that they may not be that would change my life.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Like I still feel today that we preach the message that we preach the message of Jesus, but we do not preach the message Jesus preached. AA does that better.
Right. That's good. Yeah.
I'm
Say
just
it. Say
telling you,
teach-
do it.
That's right.
Yeah,
AA
say it,
has
man.
done that better.
That is
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
And
Say
why we push off such a program that we could probably learn from.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I have to agree with everything in it, but why am I defaultly throwing something out that could actually train me to be a better follower of Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, not everything's demonic.
Yeah.
Not everything's a demon, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's amazing how we get to that place. But, like, I want to seek to understand.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, man, this whole AA deal was a life preserver in my life that probably I would not be where I'm at today doing what I did without it.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I probably would have went
Probably would have did what?
I probably would have went to Bible college,
Yep.
got drunk,
Yep.
preached at a church,
Yep.
drunk.
Yep.
If I can talk like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm like Bill. I get my mind set on one thing and I'm zealous about it, but I'm so zealous about it that I'm ignorant of how it changes my life.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And so here I am, a preacher, doing all this stuff that I'm just covering up because we don't talk about that in
Yeah.
the Southern church.
Yeah.
right.
Like I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
I'm not taking maybe I am taking shots, but I'm just saying that from my experience. Well, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
this gonna hit
Talk
some
about
folk
it, bro.
that are. I mean,
Talk about
we're
it.
living in a day, man, where there are people that have a good gift that climb to high places that we're starting to watch fall.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we don't really understand self-awareness.
Yeah.
We don't understand the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. And we don't. I mean, that preach is good, but what kind of what kind of fleshing that out? What does that look
Yes.
like according to my life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just saying, man, I don't want people to go through the pain I went through of having a gift that outserved my character.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's the word, though.
And I'm just telling you,
Yep.
dude, the high place ain't for people without character.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna swallow you up.
Yeah.
And it's gonna spit you out.
Yeah.
And so I can't afford to over spiritualize this religion
Yeah.
to the point where I talk about it, but I don't ever have an understanding of how this works in my life.
Yeah.
the understanding comes from the experience.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I think a lot of times we miss. The experience is what gives me understanding. Right? And so I try to understand godly things, but I'm not willing to walk through the godly practice or the way he wants me to be able to understand it because I'm unwilling to go through the work of change. This is how Jesus said it. He said, repent, for the change is at hand. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. What he's saying is turn aside from the life that you were living, because for the rest of your life, you're going to be conforming to my image.
Yeah.
You're going to be changing. What does conform mean? Change.
Yeah. That's right.
And so, like, what I see, and here's the thing, man, sidebar, we're not talking about this stuff from a place of highness. We're talking about this stuff from a place of lowness, that I see pastors having to come check in our rehab facility and have to get help because they've never fleshed it out, and their gift has made room for them. Their character is not changed, so it can't sustain the weight of having to deal with a congregation of people that they've never dealt with their problems as the pastor. And so how could I ever hold up on somebody else's problems or counsel them in their problems, because I'm going home empty while you're here getting full, and I'm helping you. I'm walking out the back door or walking out to go to the buffet with you, and I'm wondering, how am I not going to get high today?
Right.
How am I not going to get drunk today? And the reality is that the only way any of us are going to be able to experience what God's best is for us is once we become willing to change. You said it best, character. I see a lot of people that know a lot more than me, and they will because they're more intelligent than I am, and they know more of the Bible, and they know more of the big book, and they know more of all this, but they have no character. And character is the container that holds God.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm able to, that's what holds my integrity and my character, who I am when nobody is looking.
Right.
Which don't really get fixed when you get saved.
No, there it is. It don't.
Right.
Well, it's literally when you get saved, it's literally birthed into you as a seed.
Yes.
That's why you call it
that's
a
right.
baby.
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Right? The Holy Spirit is the seed that connects your spirit, your soul to heaven.
Yep.
Yes.
But you're entering in a process of learning how to uproot thinking
Yes.
that we call defects of character.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That keep getting you in trouble.
Yeah.
Yep.
right? And so people look for the easier, softer way.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to go through a life of mundaneness and mediocrity in order to learn how to be honest,
Yeah.
Right.
how to be selfless,
Yeah.
Right.
how to have right motives
Yes.
concerning what I'm doing. Like, dude, that don't happen overnight. That
Yeah.
don't happen through church attendance.
Yeah.
That don't happen through making 100 AA meetings a
saying
week,
it.
right?
Yep.
That
Yep.
happens through
That's it.
applying the scripture to your
Yes.
life.
Yes.
And so we've got to create a space to where we're helping these men understand that you can't just know it.
Yeah. Right.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I'm just telling you, AA gave me the place where I had a mentor. I
Yeah.
eventually mentored others, and I was in a place to where I actually answered to somebody and people answered to me.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And so it was just this healthy journey of leadership that could not allow me not to grow because I'm leading.
Yeah.
And then it allowed me to get with people that were further than me that could
Right.
help me see things I couldn't.
That's right.
I don't think we have that model.
Yeah.
Well, here's the best part about that for me. A full understanding of step one will also give me a full understanding of the gospel.
Yeah.
That it is really not my job to clean up any of it.
Yeah.
Like if I really
Yeah.
understand how the three of us are even sitting here and none of us have done a shot of meth today.
Yeah.
Like if I understand that,
Yeah.
then I know that's God doing
Yeah.
that today for me.
Yeah, for
and that
sure.
only came from my experience of trying everything I could to not do it. Get
Yeah.
around these people, go around that, don't go
Yeah.
around there, don't go to
Yeah.
all these things that I thought, and I realized none of it produced anything. Then I can arrive at this Romans 7, Romans 8 thing that Paul talks about, where
Yeah.
I discern this other thing in me, right?
Yeah.
This the thing I would not do, I do. The
Yeah.
thing I would do, I do not do. And I find that it's something else living inside of me that's doing it, which means it's not me doing it.
Yeah.
So now all I have
Yeah.
to do is have somebody in my life that and that's why I'm so grateful to have met y'all, because y'all understand this gospel message, and I don't have to think that you think I'm supposed to be somewhere, and I can go to CJ and I can say, this
Yeah.
is where I'm at right now. Like, yeah, I just lied about smoking cigarettes to you like
Yeah.
a week ago,
Yeah.
and I thought, but all that
Yeah.
stuff. But see, it's not me lying. It's
Yeah.
not me lying.
But you know what's funny
Yeah.
about that?
What's that?
He lied to me
Yeah.
about smoking
Oh, we know.
cigarettes.
We've talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, that's what I know is
But
I
that's
know that
the
it's not.
experience, strength, and hope.
But that's the crucifixion of your flesh.
Exactly. And that's the
Yes.
humility that we're right back to again.
Yes.
So but here's the truth. You don't have to be that weird about it, because this is a great example. Like I heard a guy say that when you get saved, if I bring my girlfriend some roses today, tomorrow's Valentine's Day, right?
Shout out to you men that do not have a Valentine's Day. You will not hear this before Valentine's Day tomorrow. We'd love to hear what kind of doghouse you're in, because you have failed again.
But let's just say I bring her some roses or whatever it is that she wants. When I bring them to her, sometimes they're not even open yet, right?
Yeah.
They still, and you set them out, you put them in some water, and they
Yeah.
still bloom.
That's
they
right.
still smell like roses.
right.
They still look like roses.
Yeah.
And for a good little while, they look like roses. But guess what? They are. They're cut off.
Yep.
They've been cut off from the vine. It's no
They're
longer.
gonna
They're
die.
no longer. They're
Yeah.
eventually going to die.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be me that's killed them. They already got killed.
Yeah.
So I can put that aside, and I can literally just level my pride and say, hey man, this is where I'm at right now
Yeah.
today. Shine a light on it, and this
Yeah.
is probably where I'm going to be unless
Yeah.
Jesus does something about it.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to let him try it, and I'm willing to expose it to another man.
That's it,
and
bro.
that's all I have to do. That is literally the work. Like,
Yeah.
am
So
I
think
willing?
about this, man. I mean, God, you didn't got me fired up again. So we can't remain in the vine by doing good works.
Right.
We remain in the vine by doing what the big book says.
Yeah.
There is a solution.
Yeah.
Actually,
Almost
what we-
none of
yeah.
us liked it. It would mean the leveling of our pride, the searching of ourselves.
Yeah.
If we can do that,
Yeah.
then we can grow.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
The
we're
growing-
just go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm gonna get
no.
fired.
I'm just saying the
Yeah.
work that we think is like, because you can actually work out principles of the Bible through the flesh,
Yeah.
but not have to level your pride.
Yeah.
That's where the Pharisees used the same Bible Jesus had. Jesus healed, they hurt.
Yeah.
Yep.
You either a healed wounder or a wounded healer.
Yeah.
And that comes from the fact that either this word has become real to you
Yep.
through experience,
Yep.
or you just have become zealous about information you're ignorant of,
Yeah.
and now you use it to hurt people.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, it's like I got saved, but now my gay sister needs to be saved.
Yeah.
That's religion, dude.
That is. Yeah.
I mean, I need this message to penetrate my heart.
Yeah.
Because if I'm helping people and the first move towards them ain't compassion and reconciliation, there's a good chance it ain't helped me.
Yeah.
Pharisee.
Yeah, it ain't helped me. That's
right.
Like, dude, how are you going to ever help people that don't
Yeah.
break your heart
Yeah.
because you know what they're going through?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, how many times have we cried over people that don't want what we got, bro?
Yeah.
And it breaks our heart.
Yeah.
Well, you're either going to find somebody that you're willing to get naked in front of, or you're going to reach for something to make your own coverings. That's the deal.
Yeah.
There's no middle of the road solution.
No.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. It ain't just, I mean, that ain't concerning alcohol.
Yeah.
No middle of the road solution.
Yeah.
Almost that ain't got nothing to do with drinking. The end result is blotting out the consciousness of your intolerable situation as best you knew how. But the middle of the road solution is not talking about whether or not you drink or not. It's talking about whether or not God is your director.
That's it, bro.
Or He's not.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you choose to try to recover on a non-spiritual basis, the end result is blotting out the consciousness of your intolerable situation as best you know how, which is usually drinking and using.
Yep.
I mean,
It's just,
I mean, that 45 minutes just went by a lot quicker than the 20 minutes went by.
Yeah.
You can sense the passion shift in the room. I can sense the presence of God shifting in the room as we begin to talk about what we feel in our life is most important.
Yeah.
And bro, like, I needed people to have authentic conversations with me.
Yeah.
Like
And get excited.
I'll be honest with you, man. If there was a message that I'd ever want to preach, would be this message that I think most people would snarl their nose at, which is that salvation isn't equally, or salvation or Christianity isn't solely based on God discovery.
Say it, bro.
It's equally based on self-discovery.
That's right. Yeah.
And I hate to know that we know a lot about the Bible, but we're still selfish and self-centered to the core because we can't level our pride, search ourselves, find out where we're to blame, and make right the wrong, and let God transform us that way.
Let me just reiterate so far in my journey, what you read this morning in class, self-searching. Self-searching is not a solo practice for me. It can't be done alone for me.
Well, solitary self-appraisal values
Exactly.
nothing.
An inventory and self-searching, it always implies another man.
Yeah.
So once again, we're back to the same thing. Do I have the humility to let somebody else look at
Well,
what's really going on?
the only time when you don't want to change, you don't involve
That's
another
right.
person.
Yeah.
And I always pretend like I think he's gonna agree with me anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I've always done that. The only reason I don't call, because I'm the kind of guy that if I think it's a great idea, if I really believe it's a good idea, I'm gonna call you because I want to hear you agree with me anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, my own ego's tricking me into, Bradley would probably agree with this, so I'm not gonna call him. That I should know right away. You love people to tell you when you're right.
That's
So
right.
it's already tricked to me.
Yeah.
It's that subtle.
Yeah. But I think it's just healthy that we all, even in seasons of different people, have a closed mouth friend that we can be 100% authentic with.
Yeah.
But also understands us and that can be real with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I got a couple of them, no matter how far our journeys get past geographically. Like, I know that when I get to a place where I'm blocked from God because I got resentment or I'm fearful or I got to make some kind of decision that's potentially life-changing, I mean, I don't just do that on a limb.
Yeah.
Like, I go and I talk to them, and ultimately they're trying to help me get unblocked so I can seek God to get intuition from Him.
Yeah.
But they're a good place for me to go and be able to tell them things I can't tell nobody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you got to have that, man.
Yeah.
Like, ministry is not going to be something you do long if you don't have somewhere you can ventilate your soul and somebody cannot co-sign your BS, but they can help you see the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we need that, dude.
Yeah.
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 I just think we need that. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is exactly what God wanted us to talk about today.
No, there's no doubt, man.
And I mean, we only talked about a part of the gospel. We only talked about the part of being set free from the dead.
Yeah.
But there's also a burial,
Yeah.
and there's also a resurrection
Yeah.
that we don't have time in this episode to talk about, that maybe we need to pick up in further episodes to further talk about. Like, God died for our sins so that He could change us from the inside out.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
So now the problem is that God's on the outside. Now now the solution is God is on the inside.
Yeah.
And now He can start helping us with the root of the trouble concerning the earth, which is our soul.
Yeah. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not getting your soul right enough to get to heaven.
Right.
What's getting you to heaven is that you admitted you're a sinner and that you need Jesus for the forgiveness of sins and eternal life. Now I get Jesus to move in, the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
This is the message He preached.
Yeah.
And now I let that thing expand through my mind, my will, and emotions, let it rule me so that I can rule what He created me to rule here.
And then my words start to have power
Oh,
again.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
There's so much, man.
Well, guys, I hope this is I don't know. What am I hope this is something that
Added value to your
added
life.
value to your life.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue in this journey, and who knows where
Yeah.
it's going to go. We're obviously going to fulfill the walking through the 12 steps,
Yeah.
but along with what we do, man, you're going to get these side messages
Oh,
to
yeah.
where we feel it's something that cannot be said.
Yeah.
Till next time.
Peace.
Cheers.